Hey guys, it's Tim, and this is Pro Wrestling Unlimited, as we're here to talk about Wrestle Kingdom. Wrestle Kingdom 13, the biggest show of the year for New Japan Pro Wrestling. This was an amazing show. Saw something happen that probably has never happened before, and there were some interesting announcements made for the next year of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Let's see who's with us here in the chat right now. We do got Jeff Guevara, Luke Might, Kai Orton, Elijah Kincaid, Awesome, Jonathan Powell. What is going on, everybody? Let me know what you guys thought of Wrestle Kingdom. Also, you guys can call into the show as well. The number is not on the screen. I forgot to stick that up there. I will put the number in the chat, though. 559-475-8473. Again, 559-475-8473. If you do want to call in, we will take calls after we run down the entire card. Excuse me. So, just some notes, one big thing that happened was every single championship changed hands. I don't know if that's ever happened before. That's very, very interesting. And the one thing here is also, the one thing here is every member of the Elite did lose, which you would have expected since they are going to All Elite Wrestling, and we don't know what the relationship between All Elite Wrestling, between All Elite Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling is going to be. So with that, let's just kick it off with the pre-show. So on the pre-show, we had a gauntlet match to crown the number one contenders for the 6-man Never Openweight Tag Team Championships. It started off with Yuji Nagata, David Finlay, and Jeff Cobb taking on Yujiro Takahashi, Hangman Page, and Marty Scurll. David Finlay would win for his team, I think, pinning. I have it here. Why do I not have it here? Pinning. Why do I not have it here? Wow. My notes are kind of messed up here. Who did David Finlay? Yujiro. That's it. He pinned Yujiro. I don't know why I couldn't find that. Next team to come out was Chucky. Next team to come out was Chucky T, Trent Beretta, and Hiroki Goto. This was a quick little fall here, where we did see David Finlay yet again pick up the fall for his team. Chucky T was hit with a pile driver for a near fall. Chucky T then missed a top rope moonsault, and Finlay rolled him up for the pin. Next up, Lance Archer, Davey Boy Smith, and Minoru Suzuki would come out. And this was an interesting one. I didn't see them not making it to the final round. Once the Bullet Club team or the Elite team, whatever you want to call them, was eliminated, I was like, hey, I'm gonna pick Suzuki-gun. And they made it. Well, they did make it to the final round. My bad. I apologize. They did win, pinning David Finlay, which makes sense. He got 2 falls, and then he picked up another fall. With that, he didn't pick up another fall. He took the fall. Sorry about that. It came after Smith and Archer hit the killer bomb on Finlay and pinned him. Final team to come out was Taguchi, Makabe, and Toru Yano. And I was very surprised by this finish. The finish came after the match started breaking down, everything went nuts. Taguchi then hit Suzuki with a short hip attack to the stomach. Suzuki sold it, which was quite interesting because you wouldn't think Suzuki would sell a move like that. But then the finish saw Yano hit Smith with a low blow and then roll him up for the victory. Interesting move. So tonight or tomorrow morning, however you want to look at it, Yano, Taguchi, and Makabe will challenge its Gorillas of Destiny and Ishimori for the Never Openweight 6-Man Tag Team Championships. Going forward, we have the first match of the night. This match, I felt, did get some adequate time, which a lot of matches didn't get adequate time. It was Will Ospreay challenging Kota Ibushi for the Never Openweight Championship. Match was insane. Ospreay hit a monkey flip early, but some of it connected. Ibushi hit a drop kick. He then went for the Golden Triangle, but Ospreay kicked him in midair and connected with a flying tiger driver. Pace slowed down, and Ospreay decided to strike with Ibushi. Ibushi hit a snap Rana, and Ospreay rolled to the floor. Ibushi hit a corkscrew moonsault, bouncing from the top rope to the floor. He followed with a springboard dropkick. Ibushi hit a bridging German for a near fall. Ospreay used a surprise cradle out of nowhere for a near fall. Ibushi and Ospreay exchanged kicks. Ibushi then hit a power slam, but Ospreay no-sold it. They exchanged strikes yet again, and Ibushi dropped Ospreay with a palm to the chest. Ospreay then slipped out of the ring, and things started to go a little crazy with reversals and counters and all kinds of just wacky moves. Ospreay finally connected with a standing Spanish fly. Ospreay kicked Ibushi in the head. Ibushi slipped out of a Stormbreaker attempt. Ibushi hit a Bombe, blasting Ospreay in the back of the head with a knee. Ibushi used the last ride for a near fall. Ospreay tied Ibushi into the Tree of Woe and kicked him in the head repeatedly. Ibushi was then bleeding from the nose and the mouth. Ospreay teased a top rope Stormbreaker, but Ibushi escaped, hitting a double stomp off the top rope. Ibushi went for a German off the second rope, but Ospreay escaped. Ospreay would then hit the Robinson Special, but Ibushi blocked an Os Cutter after that and hit a German of his own for a near fall. Ibushi went for the Kamigoye, but Ospreay escaped. Ospreay would then hit a huge lariat. Ibushi hit a spike package pile driver for a near fall. Ospreay landed right, and I mean right, on the top of his head with that one. Looked scary. Ospreay then hit another shot, an elbow right to the back of the head, then hit a Stormbreaker for the pin. Now, there was a spot in this match where Ibushi was sitting up on his knees, and Ospreay runs at him and elbows him right in the back of the head hard. We believe that is a spot that caused Kota Ibushi to suffer a concussion. Now, we believe that it was a real concussion. New Japan Pro Wrestling did put on their website that Kota Ibushi did suffer a concussion, and we saw after the match that he was taken away on a stretcher. So whether that is real injury or that is a storyline, I expect Ibushi not to be back anytime soon. Maybe at least out for a month or so. But it does seem like the concussion was a real concussion, but they're stating it's a non-serious concussion. Excuse me. Next up, in a match that I thought was kind of good, but it was so short, the match for me never really got going. It was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship match. We saw Kanemaru and Desperado defending against Sho and Yo, and Shingo Katage and Bushi. Like I said, great match, a lot of action, but right when you feel like, ooh, this is starting to get good, it was over. Kanemaru and Desperado jumped everyone before the bell. Sho and Yo made a quick comeback and hit stereo dives to the floor. Sho and Shingo traded strikes, and the crowd was really into it. Sho and Yo hit Shingo with tandem offense. Kanemaru tried to spit whiskey, but escaped. Shingo then hit a pair of pumping bombers on Sho for a near fall. Bushi hit a dive to the floor on Yo, taking him out. Shingo Takagi would then hit Sho with the last of the dragon, picking up the victory. Match didn't even go 7 minutes. I think it was right at the 7-minute mark. Very short. A lot of matches on this card. Really to me, felt way too short. Like they could have all gone 8 to 10, if not longer. More minutes, that is. Yeah, Kai Orton says it went about 6 minutes. I think it was like 6.5, close to 7. The next match we had, which was different than a lot on the card, especially what we had seen so far, it was Zack Sabre Jr. challenging Tomohiro Ishii for the Rev Pro Wrestling British Heavyweight Championship. I think this match went about 12 minutes, 11, 12 minutes. Great match, especially since it was different than everything else. It was the big brute brawler against the very technical technician. Story of the match was Sabre working over Ishii's arm so he couldn't hit him with his lariat or brainbuster. Sabre hit an uppercut early and Ishii countered with a suplex. Sabre applied an armbar, looking to make good of his threat to make Ishii tap in under a minute. Ishii reached the ropes, thwarting this plan. Sabre then used a Northern Lights suplex and then switched the suplex into an ankle lock. Ishii escaped and applied an ankle lock of his own. Ishii hit a lariat in the corner. Sabre tried to apply a guillotine, but Ishii suplexed out of it. Ishii hit a superplex, but Sabre hooked Ishii's arm on the landing and torqued right into his leg. This looked pretty bad. Good, but bad in that sense. They exchanged some shots. Ishii hit a headbutt to the chest. Ishii hit a lariat for a 2 count. Ishii teased a brainbuster, but Sabre escaped out. Ishii went for the brainbuster again, and Sabre reversed it into a guillotine. Sabre would then transition that guillotine into an octopus and then a double arm octopus, where eventually, I guess Ishii tapped, but I don't know if you can call it a tap because I think the commentary made it seem like it was referee stoppage because Ishii doesn't tap. I don't think Ishii's ever tapped. He may have, but I don't believe he has. So, yeah, referee stoppage, new champion. Excuse me one second. Sorry about that. And what I was going with that was really good match, really technical, brute strength kind of match. Different than what we saw from basically everything else where it was like, great action where you got to hit your moves and your big moves and your high-flying moves and this and that. No, this was more of a grounded match, and I liked that because it was different, like I said, about 20 times so far. Next up, with the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championships on the line, we saw the Guerrillas of Destiny defending against the Young Bucks and Evil and Sonata. Another all-action match that really got going when it ended. Match went about 10 minutes here. Could have gone at least 5 more minutes, if not 10, to be really, really good. Evil and Sonata started on the apron, and Tama Tonga and Nick Jackson started off as the legal men. Evil and Matt got tags, and Evil sent Matt to the floor. Evil then hit him with a running lariat on the ramp. Matt started selling his back as he's got that whole storyline of, my back can go out at any time. The Bucks did a sequence of tandem offense on Evil and Sonata. Sonata went down to the floor selling. Matt and Evil were the legal men. Nick hit an incredible springboard dive off the top rope to the floor, while Matt used a sharpshooter on Evil. Tangaloa would come in and break it up. Tama Tonga stopped him as they're starting to do this idea of, hey, we're turning over a new leaf. We're not going to do illegal maneuvers. We're not going to do anything illegal in our matches. And with that, Evil tagged Sonata, who tied Matt up in a paradise lock. Sonata hit 3 pescados. Nick missed a dive to the floor. Sonata hit a 4th consecutive pescado to both Bucks. I liked that. It was just boom, 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 action, action, action. Sonata then applied the skull end to Matt. Nick broke it up. Tonga hit a Tongan twist. Evil and Sonata hit the magic killer. Matt then hit a spear. They did a stacked up superplex spot, and Nick hit a 450 on Sonata. At this point, Jado would jump in with a kendo stick, but Fale stopped him from interfering. Hey, Bullet Club, we're putting over a new leaf. We're not going to cheat. We're good guys now. We want everybody to be all copacetic. That's what Tama Tonga said at the New Japan Fest the night before. So with that, Jado then ate a double super kick. Evil lariated Fale to the floor. Sonata hit a springboard into a super kick by the Young Bucks. Tonga then hit the gun stun. Evil and Sonata hit Matt with the magic killer. And Sonata hit a moonsault on Matt for the victory. Really good match. A lot of action. And I felt like right when it was getting good, it was over. Right when it was getting good. That was the theme of this show. According to, I want to say it was Dave Meltzer. He said that apparently the show, which of course did go shorter than it did last year, felt like that they were trying to get everybody out of there by 9 p.m. local time with all these matches going short, which the next match, which unfortunately was my least favorite match of the night, went about 9 minutes. It was Juice challenging Cody, the IWGP United States Championship. I thought this was just an okay match. There was nothing special to it, and I got really mad at the Brandy stuff. So, Cody attempted a belt shot before the bell, but Juice ducked. Juice took control early. Juice hit a juice box. He went to the top, and Brandy laid on Cody. So, Juice is on the top rope, getting ready to do an elbow drop, and Brandy runs in, laying on Cody. Kind of like what we saw in the Nick Aldis match at All In. So Juice's whole thing was like, you know what, I'm not going to jump on you. That allowed Cody to take control. You had the referee, I think it was Tiger Otori, was yelling at Brandy like, hey, what are you doing? Get out of here. Get out of here. Cody went for a delayed vertical suplex. Juice escaped. Cody then knocked down the ref, allowing Brandy to jump in and spear Juice Robinson. This finally led to Tiger Otori ejecting Brandy from ringside because Brandy, after hitting that bionic spear that she calls it, because she's got that bionic shoulder, just started wailing on Juice. Finally, Tiger Otori was like, nope, that's enough. I've had it. I felt like they should have ejected her the first time. Like, she's going to jump in and lay on her husband. So hopefully Juice doesn't do an elbow drop to her. I just didn't like that, especially since we basically saw the same thing, the exact same thing at All In the NWA title match. So Cody used the distraction of Brandy getting ejected to hit Crossroads for a near fall. Cody escaped the Pulp Friction attempt. Cody went for Crossroads, but Juice reversed it into one of his own for a near fall. Cody would then go on to hit the Disaster Kick, then hit a Pulp Friction for a near fall. Cody took off his weight belt and whipped Juice with it. Cody slapped Juice and taunted him. This fired Juice up, though. Did not do what Cody thought. Juice hit his series of jabs. Cody cut him off with a left hand and a super kick. Cody went for another Disaster Kick, but Juice hit him with a left hand twice. Juice then hit 2 Pulp Frictions and pinned Cody right in the middle of the ring. 1, 2, 3. So Cody does the job. Cody makes Juice look good, but at the same time, like I said, for me, it wasn't a bad match, but I mean, if you have to say one match was the worst of the night, it had to be this match. It's just, this is the match I liked the least. Next up, with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship on the line, Tomohiro Ishii challenging Kushida. And before I even get to the match, we got to talk about the entrance here. Excuse me. So, you've got what you think was at first Kushida coming out, but no. It's, I guess, a kid wearing a very, very well-crafted Kushida helmet or mask. Like, this thing looked like Kushida's head. Like, you would have just thought that was really Kushida. How well this helmet was on this, I guess you could say, kid or something. So what they did was, Kushida's gimmick is that he's a time traveler, like Back to the Future, Marty McFly. So the kid was starting to walk down the ramp like he was going to the ring, and Taguchi came out dressed as Doc Brown and was like, wait, no, get up here. And they brought him back to the top of the ramp, and they stuck him on this square. And he's like, you stand right there. And he starts counting down. He's like, 3, 2, 1, and he hits his controller. Smoke billows from the ramp. And as the smoke goes away, boom, there's Kushida. Really cool entrance. I'm just still baffled on how great that helmet looked. It was like that was like literally taking Kushida's head off of him. Like, that's how accurately looking that head was. Like, they couldn't have made something that looked more realistic. So with that, this was a good match here. Went about 11 and a half minutes. Kushida did a Back to the Future themed entrance like we said, and then Kushida attacked Ishimori's left arm early with a kick at the onset. Ishimori recovered and took over. He used the crossface, but Kushida reached the ropes. Ishimori hit a seated senton. Kushida came back with strikes, but Ishimori hit a sliding German. Ishimori went for a 450, but Kushida hit a flying armbar. Then he transitioned through a series of holds, ending with a Kimura. Ishimori did some power stuff. He went for a lung blower, but Kushida slipped out and hit a ref-assisted kick. Kushida got really rolling here. He started catching his groove here for a little bit. He went for Back to the Future, but Ishimori countered with a lung blower, connecting this time. He went for the bloody cross, but Kushida turned it into a hoverboard lock. Ishimori fought to get to the ropes and then slipped out. Hit him with a DVD into a double down. Ishimori would then hit double knees in the corner, hit the bloody cross, and pin Kushida for the victory. Now, I know there's the rumors that WWE wants to sign Kushida. So some are stating that was this done because Kushida is leaving, and I don't know. But I believe that it was done in case Kushida was leaving. Just in case Kushida leaves New Japan and goes to WWE, they've got the title off of him. So, I mean, what else is there for Kushida to do as a champion anyways? I mean, I said in my prediction, you keep the title on him to make him want to stay. But if his mind's already made up, which we don't know, you got to take that title off of him. So next up, in a really, really good match, we had Switchblade Jay White taking on Kazuchika, or as some say, I think it's Kazuchika Okada, but then the others say it Kazuchika Okada. I think it's Kazuchika Okada. Anyways, Okada hit a running low drop kick to White's neck early. Okada then hit the ropes. Gedo tried to trip him, and White launched him into the corner turnbuckle. White suplexed Okada over the top to the floor, and the referee was like, hey, you need to be careful with those kind of moves. It's a match. You want to hurt your opponent enough to pin him. White sent Okada into the security fence and the ring frame. Repeatedly, back inside the ring, White hit a Saito suplex for a 2 count. White worked over Okada's head and neck. He turned this into a slap fight for a little bit. Okada hit a pair of running back elbows and then a DDT for a 2. Okada placed White on the top rope, then drop kicked him to the floor. White sold his leg off of this. Okada sent White into the security fence, over the security fence. He would then do the same to Gedo, but when Gedo went over the fence, this looked like it could have hurt. The fence door or the gate opening swung, and it looked like it hit Gedo right in the back of the head. This then led to Okada hitting his running crossbody over the fence, knocking both guys to the floor. Excuse me. Going forward, Gedo distracted the referee while White swung and missed with a chair. Okada hit Gedo with a drop kick, then hit another on White. Okada went for the Rainmaker, but White turned it into a lariat. White hit a Kiwi Crusher for a near fall. Okada hit a Tombstone into a double down. Both men seemingly exhausted at this point. White ducked a lariat attempt and then stepped away with a drop kick of his own. White went for a Blade Runner, but Okada whipped him into the ropes and hit another drop kick. They then did an insane series of finisher reversals, ending with Okada hitting a Rainmaker. Okada went for a second Rainmaker, but this time it was reversed into the Blade Runner, and Jay White would actually pin Okada. So, I mean, they've got to build new stars. with Cody Rhodes and the Bucks leaving. Yeah, I know there weren't big single stars in New Japan. They were kind of big stars. Well, as far as Cody being a kind of a big single star, you got to build new guys, and you don't know what Omega's going to do. Is Omega going to leave? Is Omega going to go to All Elite? Is Omega going to go to WWE? So you've got to build new stars. And building Jay White up as big as they have in 2018, I mean, he couldn't have had a better year unless he won the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Because think about this. He beat Omega for the U.S. title. He beat both Tanahashi and Okada in the G1. He then beat Okada again at Wrestle Kingdom tonight. And this is all in his first year in New Japan. He debuted last year at Wrestle Kingdom against Tanahashi. So for this to be his big year, they're really going forward with Switchblade Jay White, and I love it. So next up, in about a 23-minute match, with the IWGP Intercontinental Championship on the line, inside of a no DQ match, Jericho defending against Naito. This was my favorite match of the night. I liked this match the most. And, I mean, these guys just went all out in this match. Naito jumped Jericho during his entrance. They brawled around ringside, with Naito gaining the control and the upper hand. Naito hit a pile driver on the ramp. And when he hit this pile driver, Jericho was spiked with this pile driver. They get in the ring, and Naito continued his assault with a turnbuckle pad and a flying head scissors. Naito went for a suicide dive, but Jericho whacked him with a kendo stick. Jericho went after Naito with a stick in the ring. Jericho then stomped on Naito's throat, sent him to the floor, and then hit a springboard dropkick. Jericho would hit a vertical suplex on the floor. He then followed that up with a DDT on a table. Back inside the ring, Jericho hit a high cross off the top rope for a near fall. Jericho then opposed and taunted, and then hit a lion salt for 2. Naito would finally make a comeback here, hitting a flying forearm and a pair of neck breakers. Naito went for a combination. I don't know how to say this move. They said it on the thing, a combinizo de cabron. But Jericho caught him and slapped him and put him in the walls. Jericho. I like that, the way they countered this. Naito then flipped out of the walls. Jericho went for a code breaker, but Naito turned it into a DDT. Naito hit Gloria for a 2 count. Jericho went for the walls again, but Naito grabbed the kendo stick, which you forgot they had in the ring because they used it earlier, but they used it sparingly. So when they don't use it for about 10 minutes, you forget it's there. Maybe 8 minutes or so. But the stick, and he fought off Jericho with it, and Jericho had welts on his side from these kendo shots, because he just started wailing, Naito did, on Jericho with that kendo stick. He then went for more shots, but Jericho finally ducked and then hit a codebreaker for a near fall. Jericho would expose the turnbuckles. Jericho then tossed several chairs into the ring and hit Naito with a chair. Excuse me. Naito then countered with a DDT onto the chairs. Naito hit a codebreaker of his own for a near fall. Naito then went to the top with a kendo stick, but Jericho threw a chair at him instead. Jericho went for a superplex, but Naito did a DDT onto the chairs. Naito hit the Destino, but Jericho shoved him into the referee. Or he went for the Destino, but Jericho reversed it by shoving him into the ref. Jericho then hit a low blow, but only get a 2 out of it. Jericho grabbed the title belt and went for a belt shot, but Naito ducked. Jericho got sent into the exposed turnbuckle, and Naito hit him with a Destino for a 2. Finally, Naito hit Jericho with the belt, hit another Destino, and pinned him 1, 2, 3. Now with Jericho here, his, I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for? Future. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Future with New Japan is also in jeopardy. Not because, he might go to All Elite, but because Jericho's not signed to the company. We don't know what Jericho's going to do next. And for all we know, maybe Jericho just says, hey, I'm done with Japan. I did a year run and I'm done. But I think there was something, give me a second to look this up. There was something I saw where Jericho said something about wanting to challenge Tanahashi. Let me look this up really, really quickly. It is, where was this? So, here it is. While speaking with Yahoo Japan, Jericho said, "I just lost the Intercontinental Championship I took from Naito back in June. It's a big mistake if you think that the time with me and New Japan is over. I want to challenge for the IWGP Heavyweight belt now. Write it down. Jericho will challenge for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Understand." So it looks like Jericho may not be done with New Japan as he now wants to challenge for the big belt, which was defended by Kenny Omega, unsuccessfully, I do might add, though, against Hiroshi Tanahashi in a match that went 39 minutes, just under the 40-minute mark. And when this match started, I was well expecting at least a 50-minute match, thinking, we got all this time left if we go as long as we did last year, or close to it. But they didn't. Great match. Like I said, the IWGP Intercontinental Championship no DQ match was my favorite, but this was, of course, my second favorite. Kenny Omega had a cool entrance where he came down wearing some armor and a one wing. So, the one-winged angel. And then they played some of his Undertale. So they did this thing on Being the Elite where they did a gimmick where Omega had a comic, or not, I'm all flustered right now. So Omega had a video made where it was like a parody of the Undertale game. And he was the supposed heel turned babyface, and Tanahashi was the big boss bad guy he had to thwart. And apparently they were going to show this whole video before the match, and it got nixed. They said, no, you can't. So they just used it as Omega's entrance video. But Tanahashi came out just a plain entrance, and Omega came out with some cool gear on, and he had the one wing, which I really, really liked. So the match began with a lot of grappling. Omega backed Tanahashi into the ropes, and they broke cleanly, but then Tanahashi slapped him in the face. Omega slapped back, and things got a little sloppy. Tanahashi went to work on Omega's legs. He then used a cradle for a near fall. Like at one point, the announcers were playing up the fact that Omega's the new school, and Tanahashi's the old school. And that they've been really, saying, Tanahashi feels that his style is the better style, the old school, traditional style. But Omega kept saying in interviews and encounters and whatnot, no, the new style, my style, the hard-hitting, quick-paced style is the right style. And I liked what Don Callis said on here. He goes, Kevin Kelly, you and I were around in WWF when Shawn and Brett were going at it, when they were feuding. And this Omega-Tanahashi feud really makes me feel like the old Brett and Shawn feud. And I agreed with that because Brett was the old traditionalist up against the new, young, quick-paced, high-action. He's supposed to be a heel, but everyone's going to love him. Not Y2J, but HBK. So I loved that analogy. Tanahashi worked over the legs of Omega, and the two exchanged slaps. Tanahashi tied Omega's legs up, and Omega reached the ropes. Omega hit a knee lift and an elbow drop. Omega used stomps and then hit a backbreaker for a 2. They exchanged forearms and chops, and Omega worked over Tanahashi's back and neck. Or back with kicks, my bad. They brawled to the floor. Tanahashi hit a drop kick, but Omega was still under control. He slammed Tanahashi into the barricade. It looked like Tanahashi caught his lower back on the edge of a table as he went over the barricade. Looked bad. Almost like the Shawn Michaels spot where he went over the top rope and his back landed on the casket, which paralyzed him. Well, not paralyzed him, but put him out of action for 4 years. Omega would then moonsault over the barricade. And then I like how one of the announcers or commentary guys gets knocked down, and Omega was like, helped him up, kind of said sorry, and then just raised his hand like, hey, he's okay. I liked that. So with that, Omega then set up a table at ringside. And remember, I forgot to say this. The Young Bucks were out there with Kenny Omega for this match. So Omega's setting up the table. And as Omega's setting up the table, Tanahashi's getting to his feet, and you hear one of the Young Bucks go, hey, watch out, watch your back, watch your back. So he had some help there. They didn't get involved, but they kind of like in an MMA fight, they were like, do this, do that, do this, do that. They were like his cornerman. So Omega ducked Tanahashi's slaps. as they got back into the ring, but Tana connected with a flying forearm. He then hit a dragon screw, and then a dragon screw from the second rope that really looked like it could have hurt the knee of Omega. Tanahashi then went for a sling blade attempt, but Omega cut him off and hit a Katoro Crusher. Tanahashi rolled to the floor. Omega teased the Terminator dive, but Tanahashi cut him off. Omega then hit a snap Rana, sending Tanahashi to the floor yet again. This time, he didn't just tease the Terminator dive, he hit the Terminator dive. And when he hit that Terminator dive, Tanahashi barely caught him, and Omega went back first onto the side of the ramp. When he came down on that dive, he kicked Tanahashi in the face, and you hear Matt Jackson tell Omega, "Hey, you kicked him right in the face." I found that really funny. He was like, "Hey, you kicked him right in the face." With that, they get back into the ring. Omega hit a missile drop kick to the back and shoulder. Omega hit a snap dragon, but Tana popped right up. I was surprised that Tanahashi took that bump. Omega then hit a second dragon, but Tanahashi popped right up again, and Omega blasted him with the V-trigger. Omega went for the You-Can Escape, but tweaked his knee before executing the moonsault. With Omega perched on the top rope, Tanahashi hit another dragon screw that looked even worse than the first one, damaging the knee of Omega. Tanahashi then hit the twist and shout, and then used the clover leaf on that messed up knee. Tana started to lose his hold, then transitioned to the Styles Clash. He would then hit the Styles Clash, and the thing here that's significant about the Styles Clash and Omega is the one that basically kicked AJ Styles out of Bullet Club. So there's that I guess you could say callback to 3 years ago, when the night after Wrestle Kingdom, 2016, New Year's Dash, Omega took control of Bullet Club and said, "Bye-bye, AJ." So, with that, Tanahashi then went for the high-fly flow, but Omega got his knees up at the very, very last second. Because you're like, okay, he's going to hit the high-fly flow. I saw it coming, kind of. I was like, he's going to hit the high-fly flow and then get the knees up. But Omega never put it, because a lot of times it's like, he's on the top rope, and right before he jumps, they pull their knees up. But Omega pulled those knees up at the very, very last second, which made it look really, really good. Tanahashi then sat in the corner for a minute, selling the knees to the ribs. Omega went for a V-trigger, but Tanahashi escaped, and Omega's knee crashed into the corner pad. Tanahashi hooked Omega's leg to the middle rope and hit a dragon screw. Tanahashi hit the sling blade on the apron, placed Omega on a table, and went from the top rope to the floor with the high fly flow, but Omega moved at the last second with Tanahashi crashing right through the table. Omega went to take control. He could have won by count out, but he didn't want to win that way, and he rolled Tanahashi back into the ring. Omega hit double stomps, and Tanahashi draped over the top rope. Omega then hit a series of power bombs. This was weird. So he hit like 2 or 3 power bombs here. I think it was 3. Then he goes for the pin. 1, 2, and I swear to God, the referee counted 3. But the way Tanahashi didn't kick out here was a little concerning. And it was funny though, because Don Callis goes on the announcing. He was like, "Ooh, it was only a 2.5 in Canada. That would have been considered a 3. That was a 3 in my book. Omega should have won it right there." And it was, but I like how he did the whole. In Canada, they would call that a 3 count. That would be a victory. But here in Japan, it's only a 2.5. Omega then went for a V trigger, but Tanahashi countered into a sling blade. They did a double down, and both men started selling that they were just exhausted at this point. They exchanged strikes and slaps. Tana then slipped a strike in, and Omega hit him with a knee to the ribs. Omega would hit a sling blade and then hit a high fly flow, but Tana kicked out a 1. Yes, at a 1. Omega would hit a V trigger, and both men dropped to the mat. Omega was first up to his feet as they traded strikes. Omega hit a couple short V triggers here. He went for another, but Tanahashi hit a low drop kick to the knee. Omega countered a reverse Rana. Tanahashi rolled into the ropes, and Omega nailed another V trigger to the back of the head. Omega went for the one-winged angel, and Tanahashi countered with a reverse Rana of his own. Tanahashi hit a dragon suplex for a 2 count. Tanahashi would go to hit a high fly flow on a standing Omega. He would then hit another, but Omega kicked out after 2. Tanahashi went to the top rope here, and Omega hit a V-trigger while Tanahashi was climbing to the top rope. Omega hit a dragon suplex off the top rope that just looked oh my God, it just looked insane. And I'm glad that Tanahashi over-rotated, because if he didn't, he would have landed right on the back of his neck. And it wouldn't have been good for anybody. Omega then hit a V-trigger, tried to go for the one-winged angel yet again, but Tanahashi flipped out of it. Tanahashi then hit the sling blade, went to the top, hit the high fly flow. 1, 2, 3. There you go. New IWGP Heavyweight Champion Hiroshi Tanahashi for the 8th time in his career. Also, he's the first man in history to main event the Tokyo Dome 10 times. Now, what does this mean for Omega? We don't know. A lot of people are stating that, oh, well, this means he's leaving. No, it doesn't. In my predictions, I always predicted, leaving or not, Tanahashi wins this belt. Now, according to Dave Meltzer, WWE has made a fantastic offer to Kenny Omega. What that offer is, we don't know. There are reports and rumors out there that give a number, but we don't believe any of those because, really, just the number that they're stating in these random reports seem way too outrageous to me. Now, the thing that I was saying as far as why this should have been the way they go, even if Omega's staying, because you've still got that Madison Square Garden show in April. You can have that show headlined with the rematch here of Tanahashi and Omega and have Omega win the title back in the United States, in North America. You have the big North American star beating basically a Japanese veteran, the guy that has held this company together for so long. So with that, we do have a couple other notes to mention. The G1 will actually be kicking off in the United States this year. For the first time ever, the first night of the G1, or any night of the G1, will actually be taking place in America. This will be on July 6th from the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. Ticket information is not available yet. What they're going to be doing is they're going to run this as the first night of G1. Then they're going to go to Japan for, I believe it's 10 days. Then they're going to run a night of the G1 in London. And then go back to Japan and close it all out at Budokan. So I like that. This is a worldwide tournament with basically a lot of international and Japanese stars. So why not make the tournament worldwide? Make the tournament take place in different countries. I love that idea. Also, the big news to come out is that next year's Wrestle Kingdom is going to be a 2-day event. No longer will Wrestle Kingdom only be on January 4th, but it will also be taking place on January 5th. Now, I open the floor to you guys. If you guys do want to call into the show and give your thoughts on Wrestle Kingdom last night or this morning, however you want to call it, you can call into the show at 559-475-8473, 559-475-8473. The number is in the chat. I just put it in there. But I mean, for me, best match of the night was the main event, but I personally like the Jericho Naito match a little better myself. But I will admit the Omega Tanahashi match was the better match a little bit. Just looking at the chat here. Henry McKenna, this is possible for Omega to be at the Rumble. No. From everything I'm hearing, he may not even be a free agent until early to middle February. Because if you remember, I think it was after the Tokyo Dome last year, he did an interview with Dave Meltzer where Omega stated, I'm going back to Japan the first week of February to negotiate a new contract. So if he wasn't even going back to Japan to negotiate a new one-year contract until February last year, there's no way that his contract can expire before February. So that's my feeling on this. Fully Clutch says Omega's contract ends on January 31st. He can't be in the Rumble. I don't think it's January 1st, though. All these people saying January 1st, or January 31st, my bad. Where are you getting that from? Because anybody that I've spoken to or listened or heard from that I would consider a credible source on this situation has all said early February, they believe. Gabriel Perez says, any update on Ibushi? All we know is New Japan is stating that he's got a non-serious concussion. TVP says, where do you think Omega will go if he doesn't resign? That's a tough one. Because WWE is going to offer him, which they have a very lucrative contract. But at the same time, Omega didn't become a Japanese citizen, learn the language fluently, and live in Japan for the past however many years to not want to stay working with New Japan Pro Wrestling if possible. A lot of people don't see Kenny Omega as this North American star. They see him as this Japanese wrestler because that's where he made his name. Yeah, he's a big star here in America. He's done some things for Ring of Honor. He's worked with PWG and stuff. He was at one point signed to a developmental deal with WWE that didn't work out. But when you really think of the career of Kenny Omega, it was all made in Japan. DDT, when he was a tag team and a junior heavyweight with Ibushi. And then when he went to New Japan, that's really where Kenny Omega hit his stride. Not with all the stuff he's done here in America, but with what he's done in Japan. So, I mean, I almost don't want to think of him as this North American star, which he is, because that's where he's from, Canada. But I really see him as this Japanese megastar wrestler. And I know today there was supposed to be a meeting between AEW officials, New Japan officials, and Ring of Honor officials about a full working relationship between the two companies. I haven't heard anything as far as what could have happened in that meeting. I don't know if we'll hear anything, and if we do, it might not be for a little while. But there's a lot of things that are up in the air right now as far as different talent, where they're going to work, where they're going to go, who can do this, who can do that. Looking at the chat here, Cam Cross says, where do I go? Where and when do I get tickets for the G1 in Dallas? Unknown yet. They have not announced that. TVP says Omega is going to be the hottest free agent I can remember in a while. Very true. Very true. Because, I mean, excuse me, if Cody and the Bucks were offered multi-year, multi-million, I don't know if it's multi-million, but it was $1 million multi-year contracts, just think what they're going to offer Omega. Probably close to the same. Because, yeah, Omega is a big draw, but if they would have signed Cody and the Bucks, that would have basically stopped the creation of All Elite Wrestling. So, in a way, you can see where WWE can see them all on the same footing, but for different reasons. Looks like we're not getting any calls here, so we'll just read the chat here for a couple more minutes before we close out this review and recap of Wrestle Kingdom 13. Bird Gotti says Kenny's going to be the Bryce Harper of free agency. Very true. Joe Kai Levin says Kenny and Elite are getting destroyed. Well, if you're talking about them losing all their matches last night, that's not getting them destroyed. That's them being professionals on the way out of a promotion that they're no longer possibly working for. That's being professional, putting over your opponents. Just a couple more things here in the chat. Big Dog says, do you think we got any 5-star matches? Oh, of course. That main event had to be at least 5.5, if not 6. And if you're asking what Meltzer is going to rate some of these matches, the last part of his review podcast, they go, so, I know we'll see this in the Observer, but you give any of these matches over 5 stars? And he kind of just goes, main event was. So, I think Meltzer sees that Omega Tanahashi match is an over 5-star match. How many stars he gives it? I don't know. I don't think it eclipses the 7 stars. Not at all, because those Omega Okada matches, in my opinion, were better. Bergotti says he would be a Blueprint legend in New Japan or AEW, not in WWE. You're talking about Omega? Yeah. New Japan will lose a lot if they lose Omega. Because not only is Omega big for growing in the States, but he's just a huge star in Japan as well. He's just as big as any other Japanese wrestler they've got with the Japanese fans, the Japanese audience. So that's the big thing there. I guess... What? I was trying to read something in the chat, but it just didn't make sense to me. But with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you for joining me as we ran down the card in the event of Wrestle Kingdom 13, New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can find me on basically everywhere. Twitch, which I don't really go on much. We just stream here on YouTube. So Twitter. You can add me on PlayStation, add me on Nintendo Switch, at TimmyBuddy. But follow us right here on YouTube, Facebook.com/Pro Wrestling ULTD, on Twitter at PWUnlimited, and also check out our friends over at Fightful, for all your pro wrestling, MMA, and boxing news. Thank you guys for joining me again tonight. Have a great night.